On this week's episode, Henry Cavill could be done as Superman, but in as Commander Shepard. What's on the way for Pokemon fans? And how do we think WandaVision will end? All this and more as we once again delve into the pop culture cosmos. And we're back with another episode of the Pop Culture Cosmos. This is Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos, Game Source, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and the Lakers Fast Break. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all of our shows. And if you can, please give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Plus, if you can like, share, subscribe, follow, or do anything that you can to support us right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos, it is sincerely appreciated. Also, don't forget, we have content all week long that gets continuously uploaded and streamed live on our Twitch channel, Facebook channel, and also YouTube channel, Pop Culture Cosmos, as well. But it wouldn't be a Pop Culture Cosmos without my good friend. It's our own Josh of Wall Street 2 from Pop Culture Cosmos. You got to check out what he's doing today at popculturecosmos.com, plus his shows Topicocalypse and the Super BS Gamescast. And also check out his book, which you should buy right now on Barnes & Noble and Amazon. Congratulations, You Suck. It is my good friend. It is Josh Peterson. What's up, man?
What's going on, man? Yeah, it's been a busy week for news. It's just been one thing dropping right after the other. So
Tell me about it.
Yeah, I mean, and so far most of it's been pretty like positive news, I guess. So we haven't had any like negative things in pop culture lately, which is good. Just a lot to unpack, you know.
Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday dropped a huge amount of news on pop culture, and I couldn't put it all on the Friday show. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to split it best I can between you and Marcus. So I'm truly appreciate that. I truly appreciate you just being very cooperative in that. So we're going to cover a ton of episodes today. But before we go ahead and announce what's going to be on the show today, did you reinvest with GameStop? Because the GameStop stock, after a picture on Instagram by the CEO, or actually, I'm sorry, the former Chewy CEO that's now on the GameStop board, all he did was post a picture of a McDonald's ice cream. The GameStop stock went up again.
So I'm hearing different versions of this. Like I heard about the ice cream story, and then doing some research on it, it seems like all the GameStop stock war has been like a war of calls, right? There's like put calls and stop calls, and these hedge funds have been putting put calls on there, and they're basically trying to like drive the price, like saying, hey, I'm gonna put it's basically like gambling. I'm gonna bet the price is gonna reach this, or this. And then if it doesn't, if it doesn't reach that, they have to pay, a certain amount of money to basically pay for their calls, right? And so from what I understand, a lot of their call options expired. So a lot of these hedge funds were trying to scramble to get this money, and then paying for all this stuff was what was causing the price to go back up. Luckily, and I still don't know. Nobody knows. I'm sure somebody knows, but there's, after all the stuff with Robinhood and Congress and the guy from Deep Value, the guy from Reddit that originally like championed GameStop. And there's so much going on here. Nobody knows exactly what's happening, but the theory is that like around March 9th, there's going to be another like GameStop kind of taken off again, because that's when all these call options expire for both like the Redditors and the people on the hedge fund. So I don't know. It's all very vague right now. I was still sitting on so I was sitting on a half a share from the last time it went to the moon. And then once it dropped down to $40, I was like, oh, maybe I'll pick up a couple more, just because I'm hearing, just from all like the stuff with not Congress, all the like the hearings and all that like GameStop still has a lot of unexplored potential. So I picked up 2 shares there. So I was sitting on 2.5 shares when it started to like slowly go up. So I made about $300, and I sold my half share that I had. Yeah, the half share I was still sitting on, I sold that, which basically paid for my investment, my original 2 investments, and then a little bit of extra. So right now I'm still sitting on 2 shares, and assuming that it like takes off again, I'm going to hang on to them until that happens. But other than that, like it was basically like free stocks. I took out what I spent on them, and I'm just kind of sitting on the what's left here.
Do you hear that? Do you hear that outside your door right there? That's the IRS calling. I just wanted to let you know.
I haven't been doing like I don't know, investing based on Redditing. These are just like stuff that I had. This is just like gut instinct investing I've been doing, and like it seemed to pay off this time. But I mean, I got curious to see what the reason for it mooning was, and all these people on Reddit just can't seem to like agree with what's happening. So I don't know, man. We'll see what happens with it. If March 9th rolls around, it takes off again, then maybe there is something to like the call options having to be paid for and all that. But who knows?
Well, I'm certainly glad that you have taken advantage of it, my friend. I'm certainly glad that you're successful from it, and I wish you continued success with GameStop and all of the investors. But please, when you do so, please be careful about it. Make sure that you're not losing your savings or anything of that nature. Just make sure you're doing it smart. But I'm hoping as well that all this attention on GameStop will actually help the company itself.
Well, yeah.
I know you and I have over the years just ripped GameStop mercilessly. But if they leave, if they close down, if they shut down operations, like we will talk about at the back end of the show about another electronics retailer, I mean, that's bad news for gamers right there. I mean, yeah, sure, we can download everything, but just to not have GameStop around in any form would kind of suck.
Yeah, well, and this time, unlike last time, the CEO of GameStop actually said something. During the last rise, the meteoric rise of GameStop stock, nobody said anything. And this time, not only did the CEO say something, but then there's like news about the firing of the CFO. And from what I'm understanding, like I'm reading a lot of stuff about GameStop as a company and the fact that like I read something crazy, like they laid off like 60% of their employees before they even sold their private jet. Like that seems insane to me. No wonder the company's not doing well. And
the AMC chief got a big bonus, even though everybody knows what's going on with the theaters. It's just a crazy world out there in investing. But please, just be safe and just be smart, and continue success for you, my friend, in the world of Wall Street.
Thank you.
There you go. I'm going to be next Leonardo Dicaprio there. All right. There you go.
Hopefully, but it's going to Eagle.
I hope so. But it's going to be a great show we have for everyone today. We're going to be talking Henry Cavill. He's become the Tom Holland of the DC universe in so many ways because he leaked out something that Josh and I are particularly interested in. What could it be? Well, it may be a turn as Commander Shepard coming up here. We'll talk about that. Also on the show, coming up on the back half, we'll talk about the Henry Cavill again. We'll talk about Henry Cavill again, this time possibly not being Superman much longer, as a new Superman story is being developed by J.J. Abrams. And we'll talk about the new writer that's come in and why that's important coming up on the show as well. Sony State of Play. Outside of Final Fantasy VII news, was there anything to Sony State of Play? I'll ask Josh his opinion on that. Pokemon Presents, they had a couple big reveals. We'll talk about that. Of course, we will be hitting WandaVision Episode 8 in this hour. There is going to be a little bit of spoilers, but you know what? We're actually going to more, instead of talk about the Episode 8 as much, we're going to talk about what we may want to see or what we may see in Episode 9. So we'll talk about Episode 8 and 9 coming up on the back half of the show as well. Anthem and Fry's Electronics, as I talked about just a second ago, rest in peace. They're both gone the way of the dodo. We'll talk about that coming up on the back half of the show. And of course, we got part 2 of a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame discussion with Mike Faber from the ESO Network and Kevin Eldridge from the Flopcast, as we talk about who got snubbed from consideration from this year's honorees. But my friend, there's still so much to talk about on today's show. This week, on the back half of the week, Paramount Plus is going to, well, CBS All Access will go away itself, but Paramount Plus will come in its place, with a whole bunch of new content coming on the way. I want to hear your thoughts on this, my friend. When it comes to Paramount Plus, they're adding a whole bunch of new stuff, including an all new Beavis and Butthead movie. The Halo TV series is actually being moved over. Viacom CBS announces it's being moved over from Showtime to Paramount Plus. There's going to be a Frasier revival, and that got a lot of news because of Kelsey Grammer's coming back into the role. Rugrats reboot, which everybody's kind of like weirding out on. They're not sure of the designs and the voices and all that because it is the original voices, but the design of the Rugrats.
It looks like one of those old PlayStation 3D Rugrat games. Exactly.
Avatar, the Airbender. They're going to put more live sports on there. We've talked about before the Star Trek shows going over. That's also going to be a major part of Paramount Plus. In fact, that was part of their Super Bowl advertising, including, I think, Star Trek New Worlds, I think is the latest show that's going to be coming on there. That's going to be a part of Paramount Plus. And then also what to me was most important was what they talked about for Paramount as far as their movies are concerned and the major movie IPs that they have, including A Quiet Place Part 2 and Mission Impossible 7, both coming to Paramount Plus 45 days after its initial box office release. So I want to hear all that for you. The service here in America is going to cost, with ads, about $6 a month. So I want to hear your thoughts on Paramount Plus as CBS All Access goes away and Paramount Plus comes into place starting March the 4th.
Wait, so with ads, it's $6?
With ads, it's $6.
That's crazy because you can watch. Actually, no, it's not crazy because Hulu's about $7 with
Peacock
ads.
Is $5, I think, as well.
Yeah, that's true. Okay,
and that's with ads. That's with ads. So yeah.
I think that Paramount has a little more steam in the engine than a lot of these other ones do. NBC, Peacock, or whatever it is. I could see where a streaming service under the umbrella of Paramount would be successful. I do like the idea of things hitting streaming service, I guess, after theaters. I'm surprised that they didn't, say, at least not for everything, but at least for a couple big films like this will be released on Paramount Plus day one, because I guarantee you that would have gotten subscribers. It worked for HBO, and I think it would have worked for Paramount. I think a lot of people are mad about the Halo TV show. I think that it could be a good idea, but it's not securing long-time subscribers. Taking something like that from Showtime and putting it on. Wait, it's Showtime, right? Yeah, Showtime,
yes.
And putting
it's
it
being moved from Showtime to Paramount Plus.
Paramount Plus, and putting it on Paramount Plus. It's a great idea, but it's not going to keep subscribers. So that's where I think you have a good point with the movie offering, right? That's going to be, I think, the movie offering is going to be what maintains subscribers for longer than the trial period or the month that follows.
So you're going to see, like I said, it's going to be a month and a half after the initial release.
Yeah.
Before you go ahead and see it on Paramount Plus. HBO Max with Tom and Jerry. I mean, they had the second largest opening of the pandemic at $14 million for a movie that was much maligned, much criticized, came out to bad reviews. But you know what? Still has made $14 million in its first weekend. And it's been being released day and date on HBO Max. So I don't know if it's such a great idea to be delaying that much of 45 days.
So that's what I was going to say. I mean, you're risking a lot. Like, you're playing like this is a casino, right? You're risking a lot on the idea that people are going to go out to the theaters to watch Mission Impossible, or what was the other one you're talking about?
A Quiet Place Part 2. And remember, that one was just days from being released before it got pulled, right before really the onset of the pandemic came on here in the States.
Exactly. So Quiet Place, like the people that I know that have enjoyed that film, I enjoyed it. But the people that I know who have enjoyed it, they are people who they're firm believers in, waiting until it's safe to go to the movie theaters. And I think that that's probably a majority of the audience for a film like that. And, again, waiting, you're gambling a lot. Like, it could lose a lot of steam waiting that long, putting it in theaters first and then having it like tank, and you're risking a lot on that. And I feel personally, like what HBO Max is doing, until it is officially safe to go back to the movies, the HBO Max model is probably going to be the best bet for at least retaining even the minutest amount of box office revenue for something on release day.
Absolutely. I mean, New York just announced that it's opening up its theaters for, I think, up to 25% capacity.
Yeah.
And then also as well, other states are doing the same in kind. They're seeing the numbers dip a little bit with the coronavirus number of people getting affected and deaths. And of course, immediately they're jumping on it as far as, okay, let's open up a lot of stuff. And, a lot of people are happy about that. But again, that's, as far as going back to the theaters, that's going to be for a lot of people, a wait and see type deal. And I'm not sure if it's going to be as soon or later that people will go ahead and start coming back.
So,
I mean, 14, 15, 20, 25 million might be the tops you might see as far as a weekend concern for even the top names. Like, let's say Black Widow comes out. You might not see it get more than 20, 25 million, as far as that's concerned on a weekend in its first weekend, because so many people are afraid to go to the theaters right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of risk going on right here, and I don't think people are going to feel safe going back to the movies at least until holiday of next year.
Yeah, I agree that, or at least summer at the earliest of next year.
Earliest, yeah. I mean, where the vaccine stuff's still fairly new, so I mean, until there's like more solid more availability and more research on how effective it is, I think that's going to really steer how people reintegrate themselves into public recreation.
Well, I'll tell you what, there's just one question I want to ask you this as we finish off our conversation on Paramount Plus. I mean, it's coming the end of this week on March the 4th. So I'll ask you this, my friend, how big of a player now do you think it will be? And I feel bad because CBS All Access, if that's the case and they feel the need to go and just change the name and add a lot more stuff in and make it a lot more attractive, what happened with CBS All Access in the first place? And can Paramount Plus get it to a level that CBS All Access couldn't get it to before?
I just feel like CBS Access did not just didn't have enough offerings for people. Like, you look at something like HBO Max, and I know I keep talking about this, but HBO Max is great because you have shows and movies from all over the place. You have your standard HBO operations, and then you have your HBO original series, which have won awards. But for people who don't know that, they've been nominated and won awards. And you have HBO now has contracts where they're getting shows from Cinemax, right? You have shows from Cinemax. You can watch things like CB Strike. You can watch things like Warriors. You can watch, was it Strike Back, I think is the other big show that Cinemax had. Like, there's a lot of things on there that are offered from all over the place. They're even getting the stuff from the DC streaming service that I think is now defunct, but you can watch Titans and Doom Patrol. Like, it has so much. It's a juggernaut of a streaming service, and CBS Access did not have those things. It had some things, but it didn't have all the things.
Watch your CBS reruns there, and there were some other things that were there, like the video game documentaries that we saw, and then there were some other things that was there. The Stand, I know they also got mixed reviews. That miniseries unfortunately didn't do as well as they'd hoped, as it came around right at the end of the year. But Paramount Plus is going to be something that a lot of people are looking forward to when it comes out, or when it evolves. When CBS All Access evolves into Paramount Plus later this week. So we'll keep you tabs on we'll keep you up to date on whether or not it makes an imprint or a larger imprint in the streaming wars. The last major studio I think that really needs to get into it is Sony, because obviously they don't feel like upgrading Crackle to the point where it wants to become a major contender.
Isn't Crackle supposed? I was reading, and this might have been just me glancing through articles, but if I remember correctly, Crackle is getting something big here soon.
Maybe, you never know. I mean, but Sony's still auctioning its stuff off to the highest bidder, and a lot of times it's Netflix. A lot of times it's other streaming outlets. It's not just they're dumping everything on Crackle like you would think they would.
It's the Nintendo docuseries that
Yeah.
does the history of Nintendo's going to Crackle. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. I mean, that's some great content that they need. I mean, Crackle is a free service, but it's one of the older services, and I'm just wondering why Sony never put enough attention to it. It could have been a big thing today, but again, that's another conversation at another time when you're talking about Sony and Crackle. But we should have that conversation.
Oh,
but
for sure, yeah.
But for right now, it is Paramount Plus coming to everyone on March 4th. What are your thoughts out there on Paramount Plus as it heads into existence, taking the place of CBS All Access on March the 4th? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, my friend, there's still so much more to talk about on today's program. Let's see if we can go rapid fire for the next 10 minutes. Henry Cavill, the new Tom Holland of the DC universe. I don't know how much longer he's going to be involved in the DC universe, but he might be involved with another universe, as he was in the middle, I think, of getting hair and makeup for The Witcher. The Witcher. Make sure you pay homage and pay some money to The Witcher. But I wanted to ask you this. What he had in his hand was a description of a segment of Mass Effect 3, I think, was what was being read and what was discovered. It was on an Instagram photo, and somebody, there were words that were blurred out, but it got unblurred. Somebody went ahead and unblurred it, and it had descriptions of Cerberus. It had descriptions of Tali, who's a famous character from the Mass Effect universe, and some other things that dropped hints on the Mass Effect universe that he might actually be thinking about doing, or might have signed, or might have agreed to a Mass Effect TV series or film.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm excited to talk about this.
I guess so.
If you look at the way the script was being held, it was a picture. It was the picture had purpose. The picture had purpose for sure. He was looking directly at the camera and holding the script in a way that had revealing information on it. So I definitely.
I'm trying to inconspicuously hold my Costco shopping list so that maybe people try to figure that out.
Yeah. I think that this is not a Tom Holland slip. I think that this is an intentional marketing slip here. Okay. Next thought, though. A Mass Effect show would be absolutely fantastic. And I think that as Henry Cavill, if he shaved his head, heck yeah, he could be a great Shepard, if that's the character they choose to have him play.
I don't think he would be anything but.
Yeah. And so that being said, I feel like a streaming show would be a lot better than a movie. The movie would be cool, but a streaming show would be more sufficient, and it could create more lore in the Mass Effect universe. And then,
well, let me say this. I agree with you on that. I wouldn't have agreed with you 4 years ago, because the production values and the money that these streaming services or broadcast networks were putting into their shows would have not made it a sci-fi universe like that as good. But you see the amount of money Disney Plus and Netflix and HBO Max are putting into their series now. So I am now more confident that you could put a Mass Effect series out there. Let's say start from the origins. That would be great if they start from the origins, where humans first make the discovery, then they go into the first contact wars, then you go into the stories with Anderson, then you go in the stories with Shepard. You could really build a world upon that, but obviously. Sure. They're not going to do that. They're going to cut straight to Shepard. I think it's going to be the case, and maybe do some prequels afterwards. But
yeah, I mean, if you look at the fact that there's a new game coming out that is featuring Shepard of whichever gender you played Shepard as, I think that this is a better route for them, because I mean, if you don't want to go back and play the original 3 games, you can kind of start at the beginning of Shepard's story and maybe have at least a season's worth of lore on Shepard before this new game comes out. I think that could be a smart move.
It's putting out your most popular product. Most people know Mass Effect, that know of Mass Effect, know Shepard. And you wouldn't want to start from the beginnings, because people would say, okay, what's going on? If it becomes a hit, then you could do all the prequel stuff that I talked about. And that's usually the case. Like, for instance, with The Mandalorian, and now they're doing all these offshoots from The Mandalorian because The Mandalorian's been such a big success. So Mass Effect as a series, I agree with you now, is a much better concept, a much better idea. You can still build movies from it if it's really a success.
Yeah.
But I think starting as a series would be great. I don't know where it's going to be. I'm assuming it would be Netflix. I remember a long time ago, I heard Legendary had the movie rights, but I don't know if they still do. So it's kind of weird who has the rights to this and all that.
Yeah.
So hopefully this will all be cleared up very soon when an official announcement takes place. But I know a lot of people were excited about Henry Cavill getting into the world of Mass Effect.
So before we close this topic out, that was a thought I wanted to mention to you, was the fact that like sci-fi stuff is crazy expensive. Like I know the Lost in Space series on Netflix is like the reason it takes so long to come out because it's
the Orville.
Yeah, they're ridiculously expensive to make.
Yeah.
And looking at something like Mass Effect, like you'd have to have a budget somewhere in the neighborhood of what Amazon's doing with Lord of the Rings to really bring that story to life and the beauty and intrigue of that universe. So it's Netflix. I could see it being a Netflix thing, but I could also, if Legendary still owns it and Legendary still has all their contracts with Warner Brothers, I could see it being something on HBO Max. But then I'm curious about like the non-compete stuff, if that's something in Cavill's contract. I don't know.
I mean, we'll see what happens, but I think Netflix. I think it's going to Netflix is the one that's throwing out more cash than anyone right now.
Yeah.
And Amazon Prime could be another possibility because they are ending a very successful series from that they picked up from Sci-Fi, because Sci-Fi and Universal, in a move that was it's more curious now because The Expanse has been a pretty good hit for Amazon Prime, and they're going to be ending it after next season. But this is something that would have been great on Peacock. But again, that's hindsight's 2020. And they decide, I think,
right.
I think when they canceled, they didn't have an idea that they were going to do Peacock or something like that. There was just one department not talking to the other, but that's another story again that I talked about with Marcus on.
Yeah.
Because he's a huge Expanse fan. But needless to say, we're excited over a Mass Effect series or movie, but most likely a series starring Henry Cavill. What are your thoughts out there, as Henry Cavill could very well play the role of Commander Shepard in an upcoming possible series or movie in the Mass Effect universe? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. We're continuing rapid fire. Let me see if we can get one more little segment in here before we go ahead and hit the half-hour break. And our guests, Mike Faber from the ESO Network and Kevin Eldridge from the Flopcast. Final Fantasy VII news was all over the place at Sony's State of Play, but I don't think a whole thoughts on obviously Final Fantasy VII getting a bump up to make it really looking good for the PlayStation 5. That's not a surprise, and that's going to be a free update that's coming out. But they also announced additional DLC, I think, is going to be coming for Final Fantasy VII as well. That's going to be coming to everybody, whether or not you have a PS5, PS4, or PS4. Your thoughts on Final Fantasy VII getting this kind of refresh and additional DLC? Is this something you're looking forward to as a Final Fantasy fan?
So I was kind of like, it was a weird thing to end the State of Play with. And also, I don't know about you, but this has Nomura's name written all over it. The Kingdom Hearts guy who directed the game, Final Fantasy VII Intergrade. That reminds me of like Kingdom Hearts 2.5 or whatever it is. Like, this has that guy's name written all over it. I have a plethora of questions about this, like what does this mean? So the Final Fantasy VII Remake was exclusive to Sony for a year. So where does this put the Xbox version of the game? Is it still going to come out? Next question, with the thing with Yuffie, yes, it looks cool, and I will most definitely play it, but does this mean that every time they introduce one of the characters from the Final Fantasy VII lore, are we going to have to play their introduction through an add-on, or is it going to be able to flow organically into the story like in the original game?
Yeah, we'll wait and see how that intersects with the Final Fantasy VII Remake, which got a tremendous amount of success and acclaim.
It was a great game.
Yeah, it took forever to make, but you better have it be a great game. But yeah, it definitely was a great game. A lot of people have high things to say about it. And the fact that they're expanding upon it is great news. And the fact that they're making a free PS5 upgrade is even better news. Yeah. So a lot of people are very excited about that. But the rest of the State of Play which included just things that were mentioned as far as Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time, Deathloop, and some other games. Not really any really of high nature or just really high profile nature. So a lot of people felt underwhelmed. Did you?
Yeah, I did. Again, the Final Fantasy VII thing was a weird one to go out on, especially since like the next day they talked about the two like new Final Fantasy VII mobile games. There's the First Soldier, which is like a battle royale, and then Ever Crisis, which is supposed to like span the whole 7 timeline. So I don't know why they didn't just do a separate Final Fantasy conference. As for the state of play, they only announced a couple things that were like I guess world premiere type things, but Returnal looks really good. It has a like this I don't know, Doom meets Silent Hill meets Resident Evil vibe to it, and I think in Dead Space, like it seems really cool.
I'm still digging on Deathloop. I'm still thinking that's going to be okay.
So Deathloop is one of those games. Like I love Arcane Studios because I really enjoyed the Dishonored games, but this is just something that like, and maybe it's the way that they're advertising it, but I just like don't really care about it. It has an interesting concept, but I just like I don't know, like it just it's like Groundhog's Day, the video game, and like it's just that concept doesn't really sound like that much fun to me. But then again, it could come out and be awesome. I don't know. I don't know. I know you're excited about it, but like I just don't know at this point.
I'm not interested in it. Yeah, I'm just interested. I'm not excited, but I'm just interested. Let's just clarify that. I mean, it's not something like what we're going to see from Halo Infinite or the Mass Effect trilogy Legendary Edition. Those games I'm excited for.
Yeah.
Deathloop, I'm intrigued by Deathloop, but again, it really wasn't that outstanding of a state of play outside what was announced for Final Fantasy.
No, and if the fact that I got 2 more things here. Like one, the fact that they didn't announce didn't talk about God of War at all makes me believe that come like the summer gaming conferences that it's going to be, they're going to make an announcement, show us like gameplay and maybe like a video for it, but it's going to say coming out 2022, holiday 2022. The other thing, like Kena Bridge of Spirits, I think it's called. That game looks really cool, and it's coming out at a price point of $39.99. So, one that leads me to believe it's going to be a short game, but it also looks really, really cool.
There you go. Those are our thoughts on Sony's State of Play. Did you have an interesting thought or two on Sony's State of Play? Was there any games that stuck out to you as far as what you thought worked at Sony State of Play, or were you, like many other people out there, underwhelmed by what Sony presented last week at Sony State of Play? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, coming up next is part 2 of a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame discussion with Mike Faber and Kevin Eldridge from the Flopcast, and also Mike Faber from the ESO Network, who got snubbed from being a nominee from this year's Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's an annual discussion that we have, and it's usually the same individual bands and artists and groups that get snubbed each and every time out. But we'll just remind you again who we thought should be nominated and ultimately elected into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That conversation is coming up next. Plus, Josh and I are going to be talking about so much more, including Pokemon Presents. On the back end of the show, Josh and I are going to be talking about Pokemon Presents. They offered a couple of new interesting offerings. Also talking about the death of Anthem for BioWare and Fry's Electronics. Also, a new Superman story is being developed and could be on the way. And last but certainly not least, we're also going to be talking about WandaVision Episode 8 and what we may see in Episode 9. This is the Pop Culture Cosmos. And we're back with the show. This is the Pop Culture Cosmos. I want to thank so much Mike Faber from the ESO Network and Kevin Eldridge from the Flopcast. Want to thank them so much for being on the show, talking the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Plus, thank you again to Mike for allowing us to be a great part all these years of the ESO Network. And thank all the listeners for catching our show right there for you. Please please check out all the great shows on the ESO Network whenever you can. But before we head on out, my friend, a few great stories we need to talk about. Pokemon Presents. They had theirs was a little bit shorter, a little bit more direct and to the point, but they had 2 big reveals. One is The Inevitable, another remake. My gosh, what a surprise. This time it's Diamond and Pearl. Not surprised because that was such a huge success back in the day when I was at my game store, running my game store, and I know how well that sold. So I'm not surprised that they're doing a remake of it. And an open world Pokemon Legends Arceus. So I want to hear your thoughts on A, a remake for Diamond and Pearl, and B, this open world new game for Pokemon.
Okay, so this was one. Yeah, I would have loved to see one of these Pokemon games like end that last Nintendo Direct instead of Splatoon 3, which was kind of a weird thing to close on. Yeah, I mean this had more. This direct, I guess, direct or Pokemon conference, whatever you want to call it, was to me was more interesting than both the Nintendo Direct and the PlayStation State of Play, because this showed me stuff that like I wouldn't mind diving into. You know, like I enjoyed the Let's Go remakes. Yeah. Little HM, what is it? 4 is Surf and Pokemon. I don't know. I'm sorry. So it has a little more stuff that I'm interested in. Like the I was expecting a Gold and Silver remake, but I guess this is more.
To give it time. Give it time.
Sure we'll get there. But yeah, So I'm interested. What Pearl and what was the other one? Pearl and
Diamond.
Pearl and Diamond. I never got around to playing these ones, so I'm gonna play them. They are little chibi versions. At least like the on-screen the on-screen part where you're going through the towns is like chibi versions of the characters, and then you switch the battles and they're more like full-grown. Yeah, I'm definitely interested in it, especially if it's coming out to Switch, and I've never played these ones before, so I would definitely get on board with this. What was I going to say? Like, I know a lot of people are kind of disappointed in the fact that it's like chibi characters not made more by like Let's Go, but it honestly, like, it looks really close to the original version, and I think that that's the important part.
And then the open world game, Pokemon Legends Arceus. What are your thoughts on that?
So this is something I'm definitely excited about because I feel like it's going to bring a previous generation of gamers, like the people who grew up on Pokemon. I think that this is going to be what brings them back to the Pokemon universe, because it is it's maturing. It's Pokemon, not like mature content, but the game feels more mature, and it feels like it's something that like kids can enjoy and adults can enjoy. I love the idea of an origin story, like not origin story, but something that takes place far in the past, because there's a lot of questions that have been alluded to over the course of the Pokemon games. The gameplay footage itself looks a little rough, but I'm sure it's like early, it's not fully polished. It's supposed to come out in 2022. Anyways, yes, really interested in this game. It has a Breath of the Wild type feel to it, and I think that this is going to be appealing to a lot of gamers out there. But what are your thoughts? Is this something that you or your daughters would be interested in playing on the Switch at some point?
I know my youngest daughter will definitely look into the open world Pokemon Legends Arceus. I think that's something she's really interested in. The remakes, I'm not so sure.
Yeah.
But she has gotten into Animal Crossing on the Switch, and also the previous Pokemon major efforts like the Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee. She got into that. Yeah, she was very much into Let's Go Eevee. So I'm assuming that she's going to be very interested in the open world Pokemon Legends game. So I'm going to be probably getting that for her at some point for the Nintendo Switch whenever it comes out. I'm assuming it's going to be next year. Holiday would probably be my best guesstimation. It sounded like it didn't sound like it was coming this year.
So let me ask you one more question before we jump topics here. Do you think that we're going to see at least one more remake between Sapphire and Pearl and the Pokemon Arceus or Arceus?
You mean Diamond and Pearl?
Yeah, Diamond and Pearl. Sorry, you think we're going to see another remake in between this one and that one?
No, I think that's what their next plans are coming up. I think that we'll see Gold and Silver coming up after that. I think they're saving that. I think that's something they can always go to. I mean, Red and Blue, Gold and Silver, Diamond and Pearl. They can always go back to these and remake these, and it'll sell a ton of
for sure
copies. So I think that's not a problem. I think Gold and Silver, if you and anyone else out there is looking forward to a Gold and Silver remake, your dreams probably will come true at some point. I would say, since I'm here in Vegas, the odds are in your favor.
Right. And you could see parts in like Sword and Shield where they were experimenting with what they wanted to do with this game. So hopefully this will be what everybody wanted the last two Pokemon games to be.
What are your thoughts out there on what was presented at the latest Pokemon Presents? A new Diamond and Pearl remake and a new open world Pokemon Legends Arceus is on the way. Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, before we head on out and before we talk WandaVision, and I'll be dropping spoilers for that. So if you haven't seen WandaVision episode 8, when we get to it, just let you know, maybe you want to pause it, watch the episode, then hit the play button again for us. I want to talk about a new Superman story that's being developed by the Bad Robot, which everybody knows is owned by J.J. Abrams, and his imprint now is getting larger and larger into the DC universe and HBO Max and all that. But this is going to be, I think, a film, so to speak, and not something that's going to be presented first at HBO Max or the CW. This is going to be something that is, I guess, something new, something different. It's going to be, and I'm going to bring up right now the writer on it. So I want to ask you this. This is going to be a new Superman story that's on the way from the folks, again, like I said, at Bad Robot with J.J. Abrams, and they just hired a writer, Ta-Nehisi Coates. Ta-Nehisi Coates is going to be writing it, and it most likely will indicate, because he is black, and I'm one of very successful writer at that there most likely will lead to a black Superman coming up in the not too distant future, and not on CW. More likely this will be headed towards a motion picture format. So I want to hear your thoughts on a new Superman that could be on the way. Now, that's not to say Henry Cavill will be done, as we joked about earlier in the show, because he could be like what Ben Affleck is going to do, be in one realm of the universe, and then they still have Robert Pattinson and then Michael Keaton in another and all that. So this could be something like that, where they have, again, the CW Supermans. They could also have Henry Cavill floating around somewhere, and then they could still have this brand new African American Superman that's out there. And to me, I don't mind at all. As far as what ethnic background, that's fine. I'm just hoping that Ta-Nehisi Coates, the new writer, can do something that hasn't been done in several years with Superman. Is write a good story for Superman. You're much higher on the movies than I am on the Superman front. So I want to hear your thoughts on a possible new direction for Superman.
Yeah. So, I liked Man of Steel a lot more than you did, as we've discussed before. I really like Henry Cavill's iteration of Superman. I
do too. I'm not going to say I don't. I just think he's
I know.
really giving boring scripts.
Yeah, really so I'm hoping that they're still going to evolve that character and like have him. I hope that we're not seeing I hope that the Snyder cut of the Justice League is so successful that it has them paying more attention to the joined parts of the DCU.
I hope it revives the Justice League too.
Yes. So I hope we see more out of Cavill. On as far as like this new Superman goes, I'm totally behind this, man. Like I can see this being great. What I don't want to happen here is to have them tell the origin story again. I don't want that. We've seen that enough, right? Yeah. This is just about as many times as we've seen Uncle Ben die. We don't need to see it again. We just give us something that like jumps into an original storyline.
Jor-El and the coming from Krypton blowing up, blah, yada yada yada. That's been done to death.
Let's skip that and move on to something big.
What made Black Panther work so well?
Yeah.
So that movie works so well is because they already bring you into the world, and the world is already developed.
The world's already built. Yeah, I mean, and we don't and it doesn't have to be limited by the fact that this is going to be an African American Superman. Like it can literally just jump into existing lore, and people would just be like, "Oh, Superman's always, he's always been of this ethnic background." Like that would be, I feel like that would be a great way to like just kind of, I don't know, mainline, and
everybody's always known him in the picture, in the movie, or in the series, or whatever they're doing, knows him and always has known him as being African American.
Right. So you don't have to like, I don't know, explain things. Just have this be a pre-existing world. Whether or not they're going to tie that into the Pattinson movie, I don't know. But like, yes, I can definitely see this being a great movie if it has a great story, and with someone like J.J. Abrams on board, it can only go well. But then again, as you've said before, Superman's always been kind of a jinxed property. So hopefully this is successful because like again, they're already doing things that have never been done before.
Absolutely. Well, Superman's that character who, up until the late 70s with the Christopher Reeves, I mean, he helped popularize it. And of course, Superman for a long time was the number one superhero. I mean, everybody just knew Superman over everybody else. But Batman came along, it got popularized, and Superman became the most popular superhero in his place. I believe, anyways. That's what I believe as far as pop culture lore. And then, of course, we saw the takeoff from Marvel from there. But could be a way to reignite people's love and affirmation for Superman. But I don't want Henry Cavill's time under the cape to be done as well.
Yeah, of course. I mean, and like hopefully these can both exist, and like we're seeing movies like Flashpoint kind of tying things, being the ribbon that ties things together. So hopefully that these, assuming this next Superman's successful and there's like a sequel or something, like hopefully these versions of the hero can run in conjunction with each other.
What are your thoughts out there on possibly a new Superman movie on the way, and the fact that it could be a black Superman, and which is a great cultural sign, a great sign that things hopefully will change, get better with a new writer in place, obviously new producer in J.J. Abrams, and really this could mean some great signs for the DC universe. But we want to hear your thoughts. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, two last things to hit up before we head on out, my friend, and that is WandaVision episode 8. And the reason why we put it back here on this back end of the episode, it wasn't that great, my friend. It was basically, I think TJ Johnson, who I interviewed a couple weeks ago, who I interviewed last week on the show, said it best about episode 7. It was a table setting episode. And he was excited because he thought 8 and 9 would be really just those knock it out of the home run, knock it out of the park type episodes. Unfortunately, episode 8 was more of a flashback episode with a lot of table setting as well. So I want to hear your thoughts on episode 8.
So I look at episode 8 the same way. Remember did you watch season 3 of Daredevil, like the last season they made of that show?
Parts of it, yes.
So there was like it's like 1.5 episodes that kind of give you backstory on Karen Page. And like, I just, as interesting as her character was, I don't like going backwards. And that's the same thing with this new episode of WandaVision. I don't like going backwards. Like you didn't really need it. You could have like wrapped all that up into maybe like 3 or 4 sentences of dialogue instead of really just like
devoting 42 minutes to it.
Yeah, droning on about it. And here's another thing though, as I'm watching this episode, Agatha Harkness,
Agatha Harkness.
She's not menacing. Like seeing her, like she looks like a mom in a witch's Halloween costume. Like that really just like there's so much going for it in episode 8 or 7.
Yeah.
And it's just like really kind of like I was telling you about the sitcom stuff kind of pulled me out as they're trying to like switch back and forth. This episode pulled me out.
I don't blame you, my friend, because it did, like you said, a lot of retelling. She's trying, I guess Agatha Harkness is trying to understand how Scarlet Witch, Wanda Maximoff, got so much power and obtained so much power. And she tried to find out the origins. And it turns out her origins was that she was a witch all along, but it grew exponentially. Her power grew exponentially from experiences the Mind Stone firsthand when she was under the auspices of Hydra. And it did show her background as far as the actual bombing, her love for sitcoms back in the day, the actual bombing of Sokovia. It showed that. And it just, like you said, it just kept going in flashback after flashback after flashback. What happened in quote unquote last week when she was at the Sword headquarters, what really happened as far as Vision's body is concerned. Yeah. And it tells you that Vision's body was cut up by Sword and they're trying to dissect it and trying to rebuild a new Vision out of it. And she didn't actually take the body after all. It shows that she, from the Sword base where she just found out the bad news that he's being cut up and that she feels nothing for him now because there's just nothing left of Vision, that she was so sad she drove up to where there was a place in Westview. The reason why she went to Westview is because Vision had bought her a home there. They had a deed and they bought a lot. And she was so stricken and overcome by the fact that she could have had a life at Vision. That's what created the hex in the first place, is that sheer sadness and emotion, that power that came from it and emanated from it, created this entire hex in the first place.
Yeah, and seeing some of the backstory, at least as far as like her trip into to Sword to see Vision, like that stuff was interesting because they did answer questions we've been wondering. But my big question here was, did it all need to be done in one episode?
Yeah, I agree.
Why not? They've had all these, because it's going to be over with episode 9, and they could have run some of these flashbacks or whatever you want, memories through the course of the season instead of just feeding them to you all at once. How are you feeling about Pietro? Like, they weren't really specific. Like, is he the X-Men Pietro, or is he?
It sounds like he's not the X-Men Pietro. It sounds like he was just Evan Peters playing a role. And it sounds like it's not. I think it's just a major troll on fans is what this is.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to find obviously out in episode 9, which I'm going to ask you here in a sec, your thoughts on that. But it looks like Evan Peters' character is not Pietro Maximoff from the X-Men movies, and that it's just Evan Peters playing a role and playing a character that suddenly magically appears as Wanda Maximoff's brother in the middle of WandaVision, and that he's actually something else, or maybe a familiar has been suggested of Agatha Harkness, or maybe he could be the big baddie, or he could be the big baddie that's has a shape and look of Evan Peters, but Evan Peters is not the Evan Peters we remember from X-Men. So I think that's what the take I have of it is, and I think it's just really a major troll for Marvel upon his audience.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I'm still looking forward to episode 9. This was not a strong, I don't know, episode for me.
No, but Noe and Fine and I are going to be talking a little bit more about it on a special Wednesday episode, PCC Extra. So look forward to that on all of our podcast outlets. But before we head on out, my friend, and before we talk Anthem and Fries, any ideas on what you're looking forward to in episode 9? Because we've had a couple of lackluster episodes in both your and my opinion. What are you looking forward to in episode 9?
I don't know. Like, I'm looking forward to finding out, like, Vision, like, what's going to happen to him. Is this his last dance in the MCU? Are the rumors of Doctor Strange showing up going to turn out to be true? How does this whole thing end with Scarlet Witch still being I don't know, looked at as a hero? Like, she's kind of dug a hole for herself, especially in her treatment of the sword people. So I'm wondering, or is this going to end with her like being sucked into another universe, as she's tying herself into Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness? And then finally, from what I understand, there's something in this that's going to be allude to Falcon and Winter Soldier. So what is that? So I still have a lot of questions that I hope they can cover within the next 45-minute episode.
Well, there's going to be a lot of questions that they will not answer that have been spread out over the course of the season. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. What happened to Agent Franklin, for goodness sakes?
Yeah,
the beekeeper
right.
Out. Yeah, he's long gone. He's long dusted off. But it's something that there's a lot of questions that are going to be asked. For me, how is the white vision that was created by Sword that you saw in a mid-credit scene at the end of the episode? How is this white vision that is going to be, or that was created by Sword, how is he going to go ahead and face off against the vision in the Hex, which is now a fake vision, or just one that was that one was one that was created from Wanda Maximoff's own magic? How will they face off? Will they combine? Is this the end of Vision period? We'll find out. But yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to most, because if this is the end of Paul Bettany's tenure as Vision, I'm very sad to see him go. I think
he's one of the greatest parts of that universe.
Yeah, and I'll be sad to see if it finally comes to an end. But what are your thoughts out there on episode 8 and episode 9 of WandaVision? What are you looking forward to this Friday on WandaVision? And what were your thoughts on this table setting, as my good friend TJ Johnson said, this table setting episode 8? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, my friend, it's been a great episode. I cannot thank you enough for joining me. Please check out the slate please check out the latest Super BS Gamescast that Josh did just now, I think, with who was on it?
Brian Wegner.
Okay. Sounds good. I know you just uploaded one to YouTube as well. I saw that.
Yeah, just trying to catch up. I haven't been updating the old YouTube page very much. So I'm just trying to get everything current.
All right. Well, it sounds good. Please check out the Super BS Gamescast on all social media, wherever you check out and wherever you check out your podcast. But before we head on out, my friend, we pay final respects to two things in pop culture which we hold dear. One of which is BioWare and EA. EA telling BioWare to pull the plug on Anthem. Anthem was going to go under a redesign and some things that were going to be added in there, but I guess due to the almighty dollar and EA not wanting to spend that dollar, they cut that out. They also cut out the multiplayer option for the upcoming Dragon Age game and cut that out because they just want them to focus right now squarely on the new Mass Effect and Dragon Age games, but they're cutting some things out of the Dragon Age game, which I found concerning. But your thoughts on BioWare finally cutting the cord on Anthem?
It was bound to happen. They had all this cool stuff they're talking about for so long, but I don't think that with Dragon Age 4 coming out and a new Mass Effect in the works, I don't think that they had the manpower for such a massive reboot of this game. What I did really like about what EA had said was that they are going to be actually stepping back as far as like creative control of these all these games, Star Wars, BioWare. They're stepping back and letting these studios actually have more creative control over that because they saw how it affected Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. So this makes me excited. I know it's sad about Anthem dying, but it just makes me excited about the future with like BioWare, with Dragon Age and Mass Effect. Not really bummed about the Dragon Age multiplayer being cut just because it seems like those resources could be better put to use in the single player campaign. But yeah, I mean, I feel good about like where it's going. I just hope that they make something true to what the fans of these games want. And with Anthem, they had said that they're not going to be, while they're not doing the big update or relaunch, kind of like what Realm Reborn and Elder Scrolls did, they are still going to have the servers up there. And yeah, so you can still play. And yeah, it's disappointing because Anthem had such high hopes at first, but maybe this is for the best.
Maybe it is for the best. I'm kind of disappointed though on the multiplayer option on Dragon Age being cut because of the fact I would have loved to have done a co-op adventure in that universe, in that realm of Dragon Age. I would have really jumped at the chance for that because that's what I'm kind of looking for. That Dragon Age type feel, that Dragon Age type game with a multiplayer aspect. Elder Scrolls Online, it's kind of does something for me, but not really. It's kind of weird. It's not. I don't know. It's not really doing enough for me as far as it's concerned. But I'm looking for something more in that fantasy realm for a multiplayer aspect. So hopefully, at some point in time, we'll get something that'll blend both genres really well.
Yeah.
But last but not least, my friend, Anthem. Yeah, it's something that I think it was a long time coming, and I'm glad that they're putting their resources now more towards Dragon Age and Mass Effect. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what they offer. And again, Anthem was something that I don't think that they were going to go ahead and become a No Man's Sky, which has a second life because they put so much work into it. I thought it was something that, it didn't work, so we move on. So most gamers have. But before we head on out, my friend, U.S. electronics retailer Fry's Electronics pretty much over in the middle of the night called it quits. In the middle of the night, they called it quits, and it really became a surprise to a lot of people. For some like me who actually saw Fry's Electronics in the waning months and days and had been to them, saw that they had these huge warehouses and very little merchandise and stock left. So you could see the end coming from it. And I actually told my daughter that last time we were in there here at the Las Vegas store that is now closed. I want to hear your thoughts and if you had any memories of Fry's Electronics before we head on out.
So you could tell, not even just recently, but like in the past couple of years, that they have been slowly like there was something happening. Like they were in transition, and whether that was to go to like more online stuff or more digital, whatever it might be, that you could tell there was something in the works, and then it just never quite materialized. Because even back when I was in California, they had a Fry's out in Fullerton that I would always, not Fullerton, but Fountain Valley, that I would always go to. And every time I went in there, like their selection of physical games and physical movies, just physical media slowly started dwindling more and more. Same thing with like their selection of big electronics, right? Like they actually put in like 3 or 4 aisles of toys. And so like that was kind of like the big signifier for me too. And this was also a place where you can go to like pick up your own computer parts. You know, they have aisles and aisles where you could build your own computers. You just buy all the pieces you need. And they stopped getting higher end pieces in, and there's just the selection just kept getting smaller and smaller. So you could tell that this was something that has been happening for a while. And I don't know if they were trying to like transition to something again, or if they're just kind of fading out. But yeah, I mean, it's sad. So as far as like memories go, I do have good, and you know, I know the one in Las Vegas was like 5 times bigger than the one out, you know, in California that I would go to. I remember driving by.
It had the slot machine in front, as you said, the slot machine display.
So we were when we were doing the what was that convention we were doing?
You mean the one with Retro City Games?
The Level Up Expo.
Oh, Level Up Expo.
Yeah. So we were doing that, and I remember we had gone. We had walked the strip for the first time. My first time. Big Dog and Chad had already done it, and I was just like, I don't have any desire to ever do that again. Like it is just so crowded and such a long walk, man. So we finally got tired, and we called an Uber, and the Uber was taking us back down to the hotel, the El Gato, right? And
I guess so.
The hotel that you hooked us up with, that you're
El Cortez.
I'm sorry, yes. El Cortez. And we were driving back, and I remember seeing off the side of the freeway that Fry's was like almost brighter than the casinos. Like it was such a massive building.
Yes.
And so I imagine that just had so much stuff in it at one point.
Mm-hmm. I can tell you this. I used to actually be a sales representative, not working for Fry's, but for Sony.
Okay.
And I used to sell. I used to be there just to pitch PlayStation 3s back at the time. And this was around 2010, 2011. And at the time, Fry's you could probably say if Costco was just electronics,
mm-hmm.
it would have been Fry's back in the heyday, because they would just have pallets full of stuff. And I remember I was one of the top salespeople in the nation, just because the fact that, yes, it was such a high profile store, and the fact that it had so much volume. And there'd be pallets of PlayStation 3s put in there, and I would just tell people, boom, boom, this is what you want, boom, boom, this is what you want. And we would just go flying off the shelves. We would have people from all over the world coming there. A lot of people from South America that wanted to buy PlayStations because of the customs issues and taxes and things of that nature, because it's so much more expensive to buy straight up in South America. So they would buy it there. A lot of PlayStation 2s were still selling at that time, if you can believe that. But yeah, it was just a great experience for me being in that environment. They used to have a cafe, a restaurant in the middle of the store. They used to have a grand piano, and it used to be, I think, electronic play by itself, but you could also play it as well. And then they used to have big stations where PlayStation had a big demonstration station and things of that nature. Yes, they used to have real good, consumer support, but also a lot of places where you could a place where you could go, not just as a consumer enthusiast, but as someone who just really needed to get something, like you said, whether it's a computer part, whether it's a computer game, computer program, stereos, whatever, television, big screens, audio equipment. It was all there under one roof.
Yeah, I remember being a kid, like the one that we went to had like fountains and stuff in the middle of it. And I remember I bought Spyro the Dragon on PlayStation 1 there. Like I'd been saving up money for a long time. I used to love going into that store because they had so many things in there.
Yeah. I mean, there's a store that had a UFO crashing in, I think somewhere in Southern California. One of the stores has a UFO crashing in front of it.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Like so many good memories in Fry's, and just, you know, in the past couple of years, they've kind of been a frail shadow of what they used to be. It is sad to see it go, but they were already slowly moving towards their own demise, I think.
What are your thoughts out there on, as Josh said it best, the demise and ultimate ending of Anthem from BioWare and also Fry's Electronics? We want to hear your thoughts. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, my friend, it's been a great episode. A lot of topics we had to cover. We did on the Friday show as well, so I hope you give that one a check out as well. But my friend, a lot of topics to cover. Any last thoughts on the way out?
No, I had something I was going to say, and I don't remember what it was. So we'll have to circle back to this next episode.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough indeed. But my friend, it's always great to have you here, and we will keep you up to date on the latest news and trends, always right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. So for Josh Peterson, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the Pop Culture Cosmos. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great